you. But I don't know. I'm very sad about the end of the Democrats. I'm sorry that's happened, but I will not let anybody hang it on me. I left them with 2 senators in every state, an 8-year window. And I think, you know, passing the GST and those things were contributing factors to what's happened. But look, I love politics, always will. Watch Question Time, that's a sad comment on me, I suppose. I even watched it streamed online in the UK. But I don't know that I've got the right personality for the way politics is now played. I can't spin very well. I tend to answer questions.
It's a good effort to know
I
about
tend to answer questions when they're asked. That's the truth.
I wonder what Natasha Strauss-Boyd thinks about that.
You go and look at how many senators were in each state as a result of that election before, where I was the leader.
OK, I'm going to bring this back to the whole question about parliamentary behaviour and question time, and I'll throw it to the government here and Chris Bowen, because there were promises made, I thought, that Parliament would be different, that question time would be different, that Dorothy Dix's wouldn't happen.
Oh, well...
And they do.
Well, I don't think we actually said that Dorothy Dix's wouldn't happen. But, no, but what we did say, we did say that we'd have a...
I think the Speaker said that
we'd have a fairer and independent Speaker, and certainly I think nobody could question that he is fairer. He's probably the fairest Speaker we've had in a generation. And certainly... I can say as a minister at question time, I feel accountable. I mean, the opposition is entitled to ask questions, and they do, and they hold us to account. And yes, our side asks us questions and lets us put our point of view. That's how Parliament works. But you certainly feel accountable. But can I just say this? Question time is an hour. It's the most prominent hour, but there's lots of work that goes on in Parliament, in committees, in debates, in estimates. I mean, I had my agencies appear before Senate estimates for 13 hours, answering questions straight. That's accountability. I don't have a problem with that. That's what it's all about. And we focus on question time, and fair enough, that's what everybody watches.
That's what
the
public sees.
That's
what capture that on film, maybe, of them working.
Well, yeah.
Tick, you know.
Yeah, well, but you're never going to get people watching 13 hours of Senate estimates. But it does happen. It does happen. It happened just the other week. So... yes, you can criticise question time, and fair call. You know, question time is there is theatre, but it will always be. You can change the rules, but you're always going to have one side putting their point of view, one side getting questions to put their point of view, and the other side putting questions to put the government in as negative light as possible. That's what happens here. It's what happens in every system in the world. And
that doesn't make it the way for the future.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that question time is one part of the Parliament. The Parliament works all morning, all day, all night on a range of issues, and there's a lot of... on many issues, there's bipartisan cooperation through the committee process to get to the bottom of problems, MPs working together, quietly behind the scenes. You'll never see a video in a committee room of MPs working on problems, trying to find the solution, but it happens every day.
Quite like to. If we can get the video to come in there, we will. We have a question down the front here.
As I understand it, the whole parliamentary system is based on a principle of adversarial debate, right? I mean, this is an inheritance from, I assume, the 18th and 19th centuries when the world was a lot different to now. But considering most of the really big issues now are really bipartisan, I mean, fuel, pollution, climate change, these sorts of things, do you think that, in a sense, the world has moved on and the parliamentary... well, the philosophy that underpins it, this adversarial system, is actually out of step with what we have now, which is common problems common to all, not to constituencies or...
Let's see, quickly, a quick one from Nick Adams, not a long speech.
Well, I've got to be the unpopular one here tonight, Tony, because I've got to tell you that I actually quite love question time. And
I'm not surprised.
And I think accountability is one of the most important things, but I've got to concur with Chris Bowen in that Parliament does work around the clock. Question time might be the only or the most connected that the public gets to see the Parliament, but at the end of the day, there is always going to be question time. I think a little bit of theatre in politics never goes astray.
Yeah, but good
And
theatre.
I think that they learn. I think that the public learn about the issues because it's impossible not to remember them after having watched question time.
Christopher Pyne, didn't you get thrown out today?
I was ejected today for standing up for the Murray-Darling Basin today. I got very frustrated that Peter Garrett has taken his eye off the lower lakes. I mean, quite frankly, the South Australian lower lakes are in absolute destruction. I mean, by October they will apparently be empty. And the only answer that Penny Wong, who's an old friend of mine from university days, and Peter Garrett could come up with was that there'll be a ministerial council meeting in November to talk about it. Well,
I mean,
really, this is supposed to be new leadership,
how many years warning?
Just to bring this back to the question that started us off on this, your colleagues in the Senate are talking about what?
You asked me why I was ejected.
Gordon Ramsay.
That wasn't the question. The question was the adversarial system.
I'm sorry. We'll go back to the question and we'll find out what the question was.
The opposition is holding up government legislation in the Senate, sending it through to Senate committees, and that's work that people have voted in the new government, and it's coming through. So there's the opposition's using that process as well. I mean, I know you were ejected today.
Quick response.
There's sort of two questions that I'd like to very briefly respond to. One is this question about the Senate, and it's not true to say that we are holding up legislation. If someone comes along and says to you 2 weeks ago, here's 40 bills, you've got to pass them in 2 weeks, or we're going to accuse you of holding up legislation. That is holding a gun to the head of the Senate. The Senate is the House of Review. They have a right to say, these are big changes and we want to review them. And the Democrats and the Greens, I mean, they hold the balance of power, or did hold the balance of power. That's part of their role. In terms of the adversarial...
But not delaying. Definitions are a priority, as we were talking about before.
Definitions are incredibly important. I mean, if you get the definition wrong, you can change the whole tenor of the legislation.
OK, no, I'm sorry. We're a live programme and we're out of time. I'll have to ask you back one day to answer the rest of that question.
I'll never be asked again.
That is all we have time for tonight. Thanks for joining us on Q&A. Thanks to our panellists, Christopher Pyne, Cheryl Kernot, Julia Zemiro, Chris Bowen and Nick Adams. We'll be back next week on ABC1 with a fresh panel of politicians and commentators, including Elizabeth Ann McGregor of the Museum of Contemporary Art, the opposition's terrier-like environment spokesman Greg Hunt, the blogger and columnist Tim Blair, and many others. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our audience for being so game and, in fact, so noisy. Stop shouting. Don't forget to send us your questions, send us a mashup or register to join the studio audience at abc.net.au/Q&A. We'll close the show with a video mashup showcasing our pollies and their sporting prowess. It's from Dave Regos of Sydney. Good night.
Race in prospect here, and Peter is absolutely delighted that they've gone up fast because he knows he's strong, he knows his finish is going to be a long finish.
These 2 point guards are putting on an unbelievable show.
Lays it up. No, he missed it.
Anyone can do it, he can.
He has done it! Just typical! That may be the tackle of the season!
Now, was he tripped?